Hey guys, in this video we are going to talk about TSM's awful performance at Worlds this year and talk about some of the reasons why they went 0-6 in their group. But before we get into that, there are a lot of reasons that people have given as to why TSM performed so horribly, so it would kind of be redundant if I repeated them here. But just to review, let's go over some of the reasons why other people are saying TSM did so bad. Bad macro, bad bot lane, bad draft, bad mid-jungle synergy, and bad regional culture and infrastructure. All of these are valid arguments, but I won't be talking about them much here. There are plenty of other great videos on the great website of YouTube that talk about these more in depth, but in this video, we are going to get a little more specific on some of the things that have been covered a little less and see if we can uncover the real reason why TSM disappointed NA fans so bad.
Got a single kill yet, and already Bjergsen goes down, broken blade to follow. It's 3, it's time for 4, and it's time to fly home for TSM.
The first reason why TSM was so horribly bad this Worlds was that they lacked the elite, aggressive, killer instinct that the top teams possess. By killer instinct, I mean that when an opportunity presents itself to a team, they will go all out to take advantage of that situation as much as they can. What I don't mean is that a team or its players are overly aggressive. That's just reckless and not calculated. A great way to explain this is by comparing competitive League of Legends to a cheetah. Now, I know this is a bit of a stretch, but when a cheetah is hunting, it is slow, cautious, and calculated right up until it attacks. And you can see the same progression when watching the top teams like Suning, G2, Top, and Damwon. Watch this clip from Damwon's first game against DRX in their quarterfinals matchup. They took their time to get vision, get the team in position. You even have Niguri slowly flanking, and then all of a sudden you see all of their ults drop and they engage immediately, wiping 3 members out on DRX, and this pretty much secured the game for them. When it mattered most, they showed up. They didn't slow down in the high pressure moments, they didn't wait for the game to come to them. At the right time, they exploded and they attacked and they won the game. Now let's take a look at TSM and their teamfight synergy, and I'm going to let Mark Z explain his view of TSM's killer instinct and how, based on habit and safety, they shrank away from a great opportunity to get a massive lead and potentially save their Worlds run.
They kill Mark, and look at Kramer in his position relative to TSM's members. And this is after basically every spell has been used by both teams. There's almost nothing up except Kramer's root will be coming up in a little bit. But how do we not kill him here? How does TSM not just go and keep running forward and chase down more kills? I literally cannot wrap my brain around it.
Immediately after they got that first kill, they all started to path away. You have low cooldowns on gap closures like Shen E, LeBlanc W, and Ult E, and Ezreal E, as well as Flash on all of them. And the first thing they do after they get their first kill is walk away. They got what they wanted and just left. But considering they used a lot of time and resources to pull off this play, it wasn't super worth it because LGD's mid and top got waves, tower plates, and were able to reset their own lanes to push their own personal advantage. Now, if TSM would have gone 3-0 in this fight and gotten Dragon, that would have been a much different story and really worth it for them. But they were so focused on the game coming to them and getting the proper objectives that they shrank away from an opportunity to really blow this game wide open and inevitably lost their hope to make it out of groups. The reason behind this lack of killer instinct could be a couple of things. First, it could be that TSM is scared and overly respectful of their international competition. There is an overall narrative that they are outmatched on the world stage, and although this has proved to be true, it could also be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Instead of having a good level of respect for your opponent and playing safe when they have an advantage, they just gave them everything. They gave them objectives, vision, draft picks, and they kind of just keeled over. Besides this narrative, they could have been experiencing this from their scrims too. Maybe they were getting tossed in scrims and they were trying to play safe because they were excited to finally have a lead and potentially win. Both of these problems are probably at least part of the issue, but I think after the first 2 games, something else settled in. Fear. TSM had an incredible run in the LCS to make it to Worlds as the #1 seed, which meant that they would automatically miss Worlds favorites like G2, Damwon, and Top Esports, which was great news for them. There really wasn't a bad situation for them when it came to getting their group. Sure, there were other big names like Suning, JD, DRX, and Gen G, but at least they had a shot at making it out of group second, even if they got one of these teams. So many people had TSM as second or third in their group, and I think they understood this pressure. If there's anything TSM knows well, it's criticism. Every time they fail to make it out of groups, the whole League of Legends community tears them apart with hate and criticism. And when they lost their first 2 games to Fnatic and Gen G, they were starting to feel the heat. And even though they might not have been seeing the criticism, they were playing it in their heads. Their thoughts went from excitement and opportunity to fear of what people are going to say if they fail. What are their fans going to say if they fail them again? This is something that psychologists call the perception of future regret. And the moment this perception sat in, my guess is around the end of Game 2 and the beginning of Game 3, their outlook was self-preservation. Instead of taking risks that could potentially propel them to win a game, they did nothing. Because when fear is driving the ship, it is much better to do nothing and let whatever happens happen without any direct blame, instead of taking an action that could fail and in turn give direct blame and reason for why they might have lost. This is so prevalent in this clip. They had an opportunity to take a risk that had a great reward. Gold and experience from 3 kills, multiple turret plates, and dragon. But instead of taking that risk, they did the safe thing, which was nothing. It just took what was given to them with 1 kill and a dragon. Now, there are many reasons as to why TSM lost all 6 of their games, but I'm willing to think that this self-preservation, risk-averse mindset was responsible for a large chunk of their last 4 losses.
Eye on the ball, eye on the prize. They get a TP in for Broken Blade. He wants this one. He's not going to burn the ulti except to go away, but they're still burning down the Baron. Can get the easy pickup. Should be an easy smite, and he's going to try. You gotta be kidding me.
During the LCS summer split, one of the things that TSM was praised for was their young talent in Broken Blade and Spica. After a shaky start to the split from Spica, he really morphed into one of the strongest members on the team, and his aggression alone carried them to victory. Broken Blade also had this fight first, think second mentality, and it worked great in North America because teams do what I mentioned earlier and play passive because it is scary and risky to make moves that can potentially lose you the game, and because of this prevalent mindset in North America, Broken Blade had free reign to play aggressive and make posturing moves against North American tops that weren't really punished until Worlds. We did see Spica adapt to the meta and play towards topside, which upped his kill participation to the highest on the team and helped Broken Blade get leads in most of the games, but TSM just couldn't do anything with this. And I think most of these leads or opportunities were squashed around objectives. Spica missed a couple of smites that potentially snowballed their games out of control. In Game 4 against Fnatic, they were relatively even, and they were fighting for the 3rd dragon like they should, and 4 members of Fnatic hard committed onto Broken Blade in the bot lane, and TSM had vision of the river bush as well, but they just let Selfmade walk in and steal the dragon. And can someone please tell me what Biofrost is doing here instead of zoning or at least using some of his cooldowns on Graves to ensure that they secured this dragon? And when they lost this dragon, they ended up losing the Ocean Soul next, and this cost them the game. They would have at least had another teamfight opportunity if TSM was more prepared for the situation, but they weren't. In Game 5, they were pressuring Gen G well as a team, and their comp was working out okay. They even got the heavily contested pick of Lucian mid and were up 12 kills to 7 with a 4,000 gold lead. They started fighting in the mid lane and got a great pick onto Gen G's jungler Clid. They then went for Baron like they should and had Bjergsen teleport behind Gen G. And once his teleport started to channel, Gen G retreated, and all that TSM had to do was send Broken Blade to sit on the right side of the Baron pit to push Gen G off of the Baron and let Spica, Doublelift, and Biofrost finish it. There was no chance for a smite steal, and you had Lucian and Volibear as a buffer between them finishing the Baron and the 4 members left on Gen G. But instead, they left Spica alone on the Baron to get low, forcing him to smite to get his health back. And for some reason, he was not communicating to his team to finish the Baron because it was low and there was no threat of a steal. And then once they secured the Baron, they could have turned and won a 5v4 fight with the Baron stats. But instead, there was this jumbled attempt at a team fight that was never going to happen, and you're not killing Ornn here, and they're just baiting you to get you off the Baron. These simple teamfighting mistakes haunted the group stage for TSM, and LGD, Fnatic, and Gen G just proved to understand these small elements of the game better than TSM did. Looking to the future is a painful thing in League of Legends because you can't get redemption tomorrow, next week, or even next month, but it will be a year until North America and especially TSM will get a chance at redemption. And they've already gotten this shot many times, so there's really no indication that it'll be any better next time they go to Worlds. The last thing I want to talk about is the North American region as a whole. It is hard to ignore the fact that North America cannot compete with the other 3 major regions. MSI and World's performance has been a big factor in Riot choosing the regions that get a #1 seed. And yes, North America has had a couple of good runs with Team Liquid and TLG at MSI and Cloud9 at Worlds that has helped NA keep their first seed at Worlds. But in the future, looking at NA and comparing them to other major regions is just a mistake. NA is more closely related to the PCS, VCS, and Brazil. They aren't wildcard teams, but they also aren't on the same tier as Europe, China, and Korea. My friends and I were talking about this and we couldn't figure out why. Was it because NA couldn't scrim other major regions without terrible ping? Well, no, EU can't really either, and they're really good. Is it because of the solo queue culture? Well, this is maybe a small factor. Is it because of the player base? Out of the 4 regions, NA has a drastically smaller player base. At the end of Season 10, North America has 2.1 million players that have finished their placements and have a rank. EU has 3.8 million and Korea has 4.8 million. And from what I have heard, because it is hard to get access to China's numbers, it is likely over 10 million players in China. The number of players in each region has shown some correlation with results, but that does not equal causation. But what we have seen for sure is that North America is a very top-heavy region. This year, there was a night and day difference between the top 3 teams and the bottom 3 teams in the LCS. This is obvious, and you can make the same argument for other regions, but NA just doesn't have the same talent to scrim against that China, Korea, PCS, and the VCS have. This centralized location of talent benefits them tremendously. And even if we were to get the top players from the LCK and LPL and other good regions, we see them perform very poorly. These players could be affected by a myriad of factors when moving to a new country, but strictly from competitive optics, I think that our international talent plays down to the level in NA. I know this affected my own play. When I play customs with my friends, I tend to play down because there's no need to worry about the more minute aspects of the game that would matter at a higher level. This causes me to make more mistakes and get more careless with my play. And I think we see a lot of imports doing this. They just tend to play down to the North American skill level, which isn't that high. And after mentioning this, I hate that I don't have an answer. I wish I knew what the problem was and what we could do to fix it. North America just doesn't have the player base or the skill to compete with other major regions like Korea and China. There's no surprise that we don't do well at international events because our regional strength as a whole is pretty weak. And in the future, I'm going to predict the success of NA as a top wildcard region because according to most metrics and previous performance, that's what we are. So in the future, I'm going to hold back most of my expectations, but I'm still going to root for NA because this is my region. And in the coming LCS splits, I'm going to watch closely and pay attention to what specifically we can change to maybe return to being a dominant region like we were in the early stages of this game. As always, this has been Snowda. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.